Alright, you read the title, and you know what? If I end up being wrong about this drama, like a couple months from now, weeks from now, days from now, just realize that I uploaded the video on whatever date I uploaded it on, and I'm working on it on this date. So anything after this, I don't know. Quick TLDR if you don't know what's going on. Dan Avedon, one of the people who was part of Game Grumps, you might have seen them all over YouTube, is in a bit of hot water because he's been accused of being a bad person who does some bad things, and the accusations were rather serious. Except they've been undone now, but the damage is already done. Now, I'd love to be more specific about what these allegations are, but I can't, because YouTube thinks if I say these words and then you see an ad about Coca-Cola, you will somehow think that those things are directly correlated and I had any saying or anything to do with the fact that there was a Coca-Cola ad right after this. No, I am not saying your favorite summertime beverage
is somehow related to a felon who's on a registry for the rest of their life.
Now, to put it really simply, Dan is a bit of a promiscuous fellow. This has been something that's been known for a really long time. This isn't news. It's been around in the internet sphere forever and drama community. People know about this. This is just the most recent one that's kind of culminated in some post being made about Dan's content of character. And in this one, they went a little further to say that Dan is similar to Jared Fogle from Subway. And if you know what Jared Fogle did, you know what Dan is similar to. Now, the post is rather convoluted, so I'm just going to ignore that and explain it rather simply for you, right? Dan had engaged in conversations with this person.
I really didn't like how I explained it, so let me explain it to myself to you again. Okay, so Dan decided to sleep with a 22-year-old woman. He had, issued one message to them when they were a teenager, and then another message when they had, hit 17, 18, right around that time when they turned 18. Later down the line, the messages turned sexual. Long story short here is that he had sex with a 22-year-old consensually, and the post made it look like he was grooming an underage person. And that is not what was going on. And in fact, the person who took the Reddit post and put it on Twitter, ended up retracting their statement based on actually reading the evidence and everybody saying, dude, you're wrong. Though, as for the Reddit, haven't checked. Apparently, they all sit around and jerk off about how bad the Game Grumps are. And I know, the Game Grumps suck. But that's a video for another day.
Okay, so you had a romantic episode with a 22-year-old woman who also happened to be a Game Grumps fan. Now, Danny also runs by the name of Danny Sex Bang because he's in a band called Ninja Sex Party. They have songs that are about sex. Danny, for a long time, like most musicians before him, has had a reputation of banging groupies and one-night stands. There's not really a huge problem with that, and we'll get to that conversation. But if you're gonna ask me at this point in my career whether or not I can actually give a damn about this kind of statement being made, not really. I've gotten to the point in my career where I can't get emotional or care if this happens anymore. And I have in the past, but that's not who I am now, and what kind of matters to me and is important has really changed significantly from the earlier days of my career. So it's really hard for me to get upset when a creator or a celebrity or famous person in general, regardless of occupation, sleeps with somebody that could be classified as a groupie or fan. But we'll get into the conversation with parasocial relationships because I consider myself a little bit of an unprofessional professional on the subject matter. So if people have moved the goalposts from Dan being a nonce to Dan abusing his position of power, let's have a conversation about what's going on here. Because people are throwing around the term parasocial relationship, and it's good that we have a mutual understanding of what this term is. So first off, parasocial relationships happen pretty much all across the board with all age groups and all people. But I'm going to say that they are most common in the formative years of development for people. And why this is for a couple of different reasons. So if you're ever curious why people like this go to concert for guys like this, I'll explain that for you. I discuss a lot of this in my former Dream video, so I am going to link to it in the card in this video somewhere. So you can go watch that for further information on this. And we'll even use Dream as an example in this video because he's a really great example of somebody with a lot of stans that are very passionate about him. Also, he has horrible takes on stans, so any excuse I can use to rag on the guy, I'm going to use. Really, what's happening here is that teenagers are trying to find out who they are and personal identity and what their personality is going to be as adults. Part of that is socially from the world around them, saying they need to have an answer for the entire life by the age of 18. Other parts of it have to do with their social groups and peers and wanting to be accepted by a group of like-minded individuals and trying to be a part of an in-group. Basically, if you've ever wondered why teens try to reduce themselves to being emo, goth, or whatever kind of thing there is now, you know, e-boy, e-girl, or whatever, or self-identify with that, and part of it is because they're trying to find identity for themselves. A lot of this happens on a subconscious level as a person, so you're not actively aware of it, but you are going through it and trying to figure this out for yourself. So when they want to find an identity for themselves, they can actually latch on to a person and use that person as a model for their own personal identity. They'll come to see this person not just as a role model, but as an idol, a person to aspire to be. Where this becomes an issue is the fact that they become an idol, an object of adoration. And terms like idol are really great for understanding the opposite side of stan parasocial relationships, especially with celebrities, because we have the example of K-pop stans and them falling in love with their K-pop idols. But really, idol's just a great term because it literally is just a word for something that you idolize, that something that you have adoration for and desire for. Now, parasocial relationships are a symptom, and this is a really important thing to understand. And moreover, we can see this a lot with celebrities because it is the most common example, but I will also say that parasocial relationships exist outside of the celebrity fan dynamic. And actually, I think another great example of a parasocial relationship is in politics. Don't know if you've noticed, but America's on fire all the time. But when I say parasocial relationships are a symptom, what does that mean? Well, parasocial relationships going into adulthood are definitely symptoms of something else going on. In fact, my Dream video also touches on this with the myriad of other, mental health issues and things that are going on when somebody has a parasocial relationship, and how parasocial relationships can lead to various other mental health issues because you neglect social gatherings, you neglect developing healthy friendships, and a lot of other things. Yes, somebody might stan because it's part of their personal development as a person and trying to figure out what their identity is, but people can also stan and fall into parasocial relationships as a bit of a coping mechanism for not being part of an in-group or having friends or anybody to talk to. Think about it like this. You're a teenager and you've been bullied out of a friend group, right? Let's say that's going on. You find solace in keeping a Dream stream on for a couple hours, keeping Dream videos on, because they just kind of fill out that empty air that you would have if you were sitting in a Discord call with your friends. People can actually use parasocial relationships in the same way that other people use food or different other negative coping mechanisms to deal with mental health issues. They're using the one-sided relationship as a way to fulfill a social need that they're not receiving from other people. And again, there's various other reasons why a parasocial relationship is bad and could be bad for you if you develop one that is very severe. But again, it's a symptom of an issue that's not being addressed. But what does this mean when we're talking about adults? Well, when it's an adult, and I'll use a very extreme example for this, but I've wanted to talk about this as an example, is this guy. Okay, this guy looks really creepy, right? I want you to tell me what you think this guy is like. What is his personality? What is he like as a person? How does he act? How does he smell? How does he dress? What kind of person is he? This guy is a great example for something I want to get into with the history of stans, and I'm going to make a whole playlist about my stan videos in the future, so just in case you need to get caught up on all this stuff because it can get really confusing and super technical. But that man is the man who murdered a YouTuber by the name of Christina Grimmie. And you might be wondering why I brought up this guy because you might think, well, stans aren't violent. It's a little crazy to think that stans and fanatics are the same exact thing. They are, and I use the terms interchangeably, and if you want to disagree with that, it's really a matter of personal morals and philosophy, but I do think it is personally on the same level. So, the guy who killed Christina Grimmie, right? Well, first off, he was a recluse. He spent nothing but time by himself. He had no friends. He went to work and home and nothing else. He pretty much gamed all the time and had basically zero social life based on the interviews that happened with his coworkers. Even if his coworkers described him as weird and awkward. Listen, no social life, and hell, let's be honest here, he was ugly. He was ugly as hell. I don't want to say specifically why his obsession developed, but I'm gonna take a shot in the dark here, and it's just my own personal take on it. And again, you know, I'm not a psychologist, but I think I kind of have it on the money here. Why would this guy develop an obsession with Christina Grimmie, a female singer YouTuber? Well, part of it's probably because he's never been with a woman. She had become an object of fantasy and desire, an idol for him to aspire to reach and get, which is why he started to try and lose weight and get his teeth whitened before he met her. He was awkward, we know that, there's plenty of evidence of that, and I also think there are mental health issues there that were never addressed, and never addressed by his peers or society at all. These were all warning signs that were never addressed beforehand, and eventually it did culminate in the death of two people, him and Christina Grimmie. What I'm saying here is that the parasocial relationship he had with Christina Grimmie is a symptom of his other mental health issues that weren't being addressed. You see, he would routinely talk to his coworkers about how he had a personal relationship with her. He never met her or talked to her a day in his life. He lied to everybody, developing an entire fake relationship with her that never even happened. So when we think about parasocial relationships, I really want people to understand that they are not a sole problem. Parasocial relationships tend to be the symptom of a greater mental health issue. Everything from a teen not fitting in to a man never having held hands with a woman can all help lead to certain mental health issues. Depression, feelings of isolation, and so on and so forth. I'm certain everybody has their own personal examples. Anyway, when people talk about a power dynamic, what they're actually talking about is that, oh, you create a relationship where one person idolizes another. So if somebody is an idol, a de facto deity in person, they are going to do whatever that person says. It's a very powerful tool when somebody worships you, and nobody is going to disagree with that. The point I'm really trying to hammer home here is that I see people talking about this like it's the sole problem, and if we want to tackle the issue of parasocial relationships, we have to realize that they are a symptom of the problem. That problem being the great mental health crisis. So this seems like a really big diatribe to talk about Danny sex bang and him having sex with the 22-year-old woman, but I think it helps give us a basis of where this post is coming from, and moreover, what the conversation on Twitter is trying to get at, but lacks the nuance to understand what is going on. Really, if you want to be honest here, Dan having sex with an of-age fan is a matter of moral debate, and one that really isn't needed for huge internet discussion. Creators talk about this kind of thing all the time, where it's okay, where it's not, and honestly, it's getting to the point where, if somebody has 10k Twitter followers and somebody has 1k, does that mean that person with the 10k Twitter followers can't go and try and date or hit on the person with 1k Twitter followers? That's how semantic the debate has gotten online. Now, the idea of hooking up with a fan isn't something that I would approve of for myself. I mean, first off, I just celebrated 3 years in a loving relationship, and I'm looking to move in with my girlfriend. We did meet over Twitter, I won't lie there, but I met her when I wasn't even I had 3,000, 5,000 subs on YouTube. I've been doing this channel since I was about 12 years old. But and speaking with other YouTubers about this, for most alpha Chad YouTuber men, dudes, there's a couple of different things that goes through our conversations. Is that one, if you're hooking up with the fan, there's no challenge, and for some of the more promiscuous people I've known, that challenge or that trying to win a girl over is part of the fun of it, and that a fan creator dynamic ruins that fun. Or they're just not cool with that on a personal level because it kind of bothers them because of the online conversation that goes on. And both of those are really good reasons. Personally, I don't know. I feel like it would be kind of emasculating if people are just throwing themselves at you, because then you only feel like you're worth whatever your channel is. And that's already a problem amongst creator and artist communities, where they feel like their entire self-worth is based off of their follower count. And I really feel that that would exacerbate the issue. Plus, no offense, why the fuck would I want to hook up with any of you? People frustrate the shit out of me. Anyway, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And I also want to put this in perspective here when we talk about power dynamics and parasocial relationships, is that we're always talking about it with YouTubers, but have you guys seen regular celebrities I don't know why these people get away with so much. It's really insane. What about musicians or rock stars? I mean, rock stars have been calling stans groupies since before the term stan was, you know, something we used back and forth to discuss this kind of topic. Literally, it's like a stereotype about rock stars, like, screwing the people that come to their shows. I don't know, I've kind of given it a lot of thought, and personally, while it's not something I would ever want, I don't know if I can rightfully call it a, like, strictly bad, evil thing to do. Yeah, is it kind of sus? Sure, I guess so, but I'm not losing sleep over it, and damn does it seem like some people are. Like, okay, if everyone knows that what's going on is a one-night stand, everybody knows it's a one-night stand, that's cool, right? Like, if somebody gets pissy that the one-night stand doesn't turn into something more, well, I got news for you, honey. You ain't the only one who thought that, and you will not be the last for that person. There ain't no box or rod on the planet that has a good enough anything that is gonna get somebody who likes to have one-night stands to stop doing that, especially if there's some singer celebrity that just has a people, like, lining up for it. I get it. It might sound a little sad to think that, you know, you're not ever gonna have that, but really, it's about understanding the expectations of a sexual encounter and going into it and understanding what's going on there. And I think that has much less to do with like a creator-fan thing and much more to do with people and understanding sex thing. I guess we could also say that it's an issue of teaching good sex education. So word to the wise, pick somebody that's good for you. Don't try and change somebody to become good for you because they're not. All right, so closing statements on this. Parasocial relationships. If we want to minimize these things, we need to stop trying to nip things in the bud after they happen and actually start trying to look at this issue holistically and look at the history of it to understand exactly what is causing parasocial relationships to become more of a problem. I do think, you know, just in general, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, not cock and ball torture. But I think that might actually help. Like, if you have fanatical fans as a YouTuber, that's great for making money. They'll buy whatever. Like my merch that you can buy right now. It'll be fine for a while. But when that fanatical fan shows up at your house with a bomb, then it's going to be an issue. Obviously, there's a lot of people who want to jump on Danny's bones. And if they want to do that, sure. But you got to realize that when you do that with him, or you're trying to do that with some other person that you, like, have really wanted to bone, just realize that what it might be is not what you think it might be. First of all, Danny can't read minds, so I don't know why we're treating this like he knows those people going into it are aware that Danny doesn't want anything out of it aside from sex. Like, how is he supposed to read their mind that they want to have, like, a relationship and have babies and grow old together? Like, how is he supposed to know that? That's impossible, especially if they're not going to say it. And ultimately, when they're in that situation and that, you know, kind of sexual romantic relationship is developing, boy, is it going to look the same as a relationship saying, I want to have your babies, literally, right? He won't be able to tell. There's no way he could fucking tell. Because let's be real, most people going into it probably aren't going to say what their real intentions are. Some people might just want to bone. Other people might assume that by boning him, they will get something out of it. Look, like I said, if something else comes out, I'll eat my words. But until that time comes, I wouldn't call him a groomer. And of course, the person who issued this whole big thread about it on Twitter apologized and said, I made a mistake. Honestly, this is just a great example of my canceling video. Here's a card to that, about how when people cancel others, it's more of a performative thing, less of a I want to get justice thing. I don't know, maybe it's because I always assumed that there was adults on Twitter, but it turns out it's all like crazy 15-year-olds who think people operate with the best or worst of intentions only and that there's no in-between. But seriously, and I know I've gotten heated about YouTubers who have done this kind of shit in the past, but at this point in my life, I realize now that that is a dumb opinion to have. Like, I literally do not have the mental strength to give a single flying fuck about who Danny Sexbang fucks. I really do not care. Like, what's happened this year? Oh, there was the pandemic, riots still happening, racism. Oh, let's see. There was an attempted coup. Yeah, I lost my grandmother. You know, I've had a bit of a failing education that I've been dealing with forever now. You know, my priorities with things have zero to do with Danny Sexbang. And really, when I think about it, if you are really that worried about what Danny Sexbang is doing in this case, maybe you really shouldn't be. Look around. Look how you can make a difference. Look what you can do to make change. But instead, people go on Twitter because they want to get retweets for shit. Stop! Anyway, I'm FPS Diesel, and you can take all these fortune cookies and knowledge straight to the bank and cash them in for no money. But make sure to subscribe and comment. Actually, I do want to have a bit of a constructive comment section this time, so I am going to ask a question, and that question is how do or what can creators do to develop more healthy relationships and minimize the effect of parasocial ones? You know, we talk so much about the bad with this, but what are some good things we can do to actually make a difference with this? Alright, that's what I have to say. That's my whole rant done. Goodbye, good day, and take care and be safe, Internet.
On a Friday night yet.